The Executive, the Bureaucracy. No study of the executive branch would be complete without discussing the Vice President. The Vice President under President Obama is Joe Biden. He served 6 terms in the U.S. Senate and served on the Foreign Relations Committee before becoming the Vice President. Presidents often choose their Vice President to what is called balance the ticket. What that means is that when they're running, they want someone who's going to pick up maybe some skills or some appeal that they don't particularly have. And so remember, when the president and the vice president are running, they're running together on a ticket. So that's why you'll see Obama Biden, for example, because they run together. This wasn't always the case, actually. In the past, we've had a situation where the president would be the first person who received the most votes for president, and the vice president would be the second person who received the most votes for president. But we actually amended that, and now we have a situation where we have both running on one ticket, and that's the way that we vote. And so we really are choosing a team. So when presidential candidates are putting together who their ticket is going to be, they're often thinking of who's another person who's going to draw out maybe a particular voter who would not generally vote for me, or who's going to balance out my skills. So I have a certain number of skills or a certain expertise in this area, and I want someone who's going to balance that with skills from possibly another area, and so we can work well together. There's nothing in the Constitution which actually says what the vice president has to do. Their job is whatever the president wants it to be. Their job is to assist the president, and the president can give them special projects or things to do, and of course relies on the expertise which they bring to the job. The First Lady is also quite a big part of the presidential bureaucracy, in that the First Lady actually has projects of her own which she takes up and works on through the bureaucracy. Our current, under under President Obama, got distracted for a second looking at her outfit, Michelle Obama has actually been heralded as one of the most stylish First Ladies, hearkening back to Jackie Kennedy. And President Obama's wife, Michelle Obama, has actually taken up a campaign called Let's Move. And the idea behind Let's Move is it's a campaign to curb childhood obesity. You may have heard of changing the White House gardens into vegetable gardens for school children in the area around D.C., and the First Lady's campaigns across the country to try to get kids to be more active. And most First Ladies are going to pick up some sort of project that they want to follow or that they want to work on that will have the support of the president and the bureaucracy. So let's talk about the bureaucracy as the organization that it really is. You'll remember we talked about this quite large organization with millions of individuals working for it. So we want to talk about the rest of the presidential establishment, which we haven't gotten to yet. You'll remember that we talked about the cabinet, and what the cabinet were those different departments with the secretaries running those departments, and the different departments were the ones, those 15 departments were the ones that we had people who were specializing in those areas who were going to come in and run those particular different things. Now we want to focus our attention on something called the Executive Office of the President, and this includes the White House office. The Executive Office of the President really can be broken up into a couple different areas, and we'll do that in a second. And then we have the independent agencies, regulatory boards and commissions, and government corporations, believe it or not. What a government corporation is you can think of parts of the government which act quite a lot like businesses. So a good example of this would be your post office. You go in and you really are buying and selling postal services and products, but it's run by the federal government. The Executive Office of the President is also known as the EOP. It's a collection of organizations which specifically serve the President. One you may have heard of is the OMB. It's the Office of Management and Budget. It actually does more than just serve the president. It does oversee the agency budgets. And so when the agencies get their budgets out, and the OMB is going to be the one who looks over all of that and how that works. They work with the directors to ensure that the president's budgets are going to reflect his agenda, and they're going to make sure that all of the regulations that are passed, which go through the agencies, are approved before they actually go into effect. They have to make sure that they are fundable and that they follow the general budget restrictions and guidelines that have been put forth by the administration. Secondly, we have the Council of Economic Advisors. And you can actually lump the Council of Economic Advisors and National Security Council together when you're thinking of really what their goal is, which is to be a council. You'll remember when we talked about the different offices of the president, the different jobs, that the president has to be aware of a lot of different things. And with the Council of Economic Advisors, it's their job to think about the economy, predict where it's going, figure out what the shortfalls currently are, suggest ways to grow the economy, and then use those when talking to the president to help him in his particular functions, which have to do with the economy and have to do with that type of foresight and forecasting. The National Security Council comes together and brings daily updates about events around the world, and so you're going to have different people from different parts of the armed services coming together to updates to the president. You'll remember that the president is the commander-in-chief, and so he needs to know what's going on with all of the different branches of the military, where things are happening around the world and what's going on, and the National Security Council is to be on top of that and to brief the president and to offer their expertise in that particular area. And then we have the White House office. This is a picture of the White House. You may or may not have been there. I believe we can't get there directly anymore. Now you can just stand behind the black gate. It used to be that you could go in and take tours, but 9/11 changed all of that. Now, the reason I say the White House office is because oftentimes when we think of the White House, we think of it just as the big mansion where the president and his family live. And it's true, the president and his family do reside there, but it is much more than that. It's actually its own separate unit of the EOP, and it houses, but it employs over 400 people who are there, and they have office spaces for staffers, and different wings of the White House are actually more office space than they are residence. We have the President's Chief of Staff who works there, Dennis McDonough. He is actually the highest ranking official in the EOP. He is the senior aide to the president. So he's going to carry out a lot of the daily functions and help the president with a lot of different things which are going on, which the president has to do. Dennis McDonough generally deals with most of the hiring and the firing and appointing, particularly of what goes on within the White House, but also with the larger bureaucracy as well. And he's going to be in charge, of course, of the 400 staff who are running around and working within the White House for the president. So who's going to serve in the White House? It's actually a different mix than you would see in the cabinet, where we talked about really specific industry specialists who are there. In the White House, these are going to be the people that the president keeps close to himself. So old campaign staff, close friends, people who have really been with the president from his days back when he was a representative, his days back in, before he even came to D.C., would be people that you would bring with you to your White House staff, because they're the ones who you trust, who you can rely on to get the work done around you, and you've been working with for a long time. And so these are the people who the president is going to trust to bring in. It really is quite a different in a different culture than you would see with the cabinet, and they really are involved in the president's daily functions in his job, and quite a big piece of the bureaucratic part of what goes on with the president's work.